If someone tells you they need to get a life, tell them to join us here at Road Gang Radio with Lindsay Lawler and Jimmy Mack. Let's seize the day with Phone Master Dre.
Bring that life on over here and hang out with us at Fastport Studios with Lindsay Lawler and Jimmy Mack, just hanging and dangling, man.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
This is a safe space. This is a safe space.
Go
Safe
write a
space.
recipe on a tombstone.
Yeah, come on. That's what normal people do. And actually, Jim, I love when a plan comes together, whether it's whether it was on purpose or not. Our two guests today actually go really hand in hand together. Very interesting. You know, we just talked about with Rosie, we talked about connection through food and the afterlife. And now we're talking about connection in the here and now and why so many of us struggle to feel like we belong. This speaks very much so to our trucking audience who spend a lot of time alone on the highways and byways, some by choice and some by force. But I think this next guest plays in perfectly to everything we've been talking about today and sort of the theme of Road Gang Radio in general, Jim.
Yeah, I do too, by the way. And for 30 years, Anna Runkle has shown people how they can heal symptoms of childhood trauma and live happier, freer, more fulfilling lives. She herself is a survivor of trauma herself and knows these techniques we'll be talking about work because they saved her life and they are providing powerful results to legions of followers. As a matter of fact, 930,000 subscribers on the tube of you and 78 million views as well. She is known as the crappy childhood fairy to more than 1 million subscribers across multiple platforms. Connectability is at the center of her work, and what we're talking about today is connectability. Heal the hidden ways you isolate, find your people, and feel at last like you belong. If you feel like you are untethered and drifting outside of the atmosphere, this book shows you a way to actually make re-entry into the land of the living. Anna, welcome to the show. We are thrilled to have you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Anna, I want to start dive right in here. A vast majority of our audience are over-the-road truck drivers who obviously spend a lot of time alone. Some choose the industry because they want the solitude. Some it's a great way to make a living. So some just love it, and by the nature of the beast, spend a lot of time alone. I would love to talk about how we can tell the difference between truly needing solitude versus unconsciously isolating because it feels safer at the time.
Well, everybody needs some solitude. It's really healthy. It's nutritious for your spirit to have some solitude. But the sign that it's solitude and not isolating is that it does good for you. It does not tear down your relationships. It doesn't make you depressed. It doesn't stop you from fulfilling your potential and pursuing what you really want in your life.
Well, and does that, I'll just ask as a follow-up here, does that, because I had somebody tell me somewhat recently, it was like, you thought you're an extrovert your whole life. You're actually an introvert who forces yourself to be an extrovert. So I started thinking about when we label ourselves. I think words like extrovert and introvert actually kind of hurt us because we put ourselves in one box or another, and then we think we have to live there, and as opposed to finding sort of the balance. So is that something that's really important? It sounds like what you're saying. Like, I mean, I've realized I need to fuel up by spending time alone. And then go out and then, I don't want to say power down, but like get a different kind of fuel by being around people and walk the balance. So is that something that you think people need to be aware of, really finding that ground that's the dance that works for them?
I think a lot of introversion is misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
I think what it is people have had trauma and it's too stressful to be around people. The big revelation about early trauma is that it leaves a lot of us with a nervous system that glitches out sometimes. And it's called dysregulation. People are starting to talk about it more now, but that's the topic of my first book. It's called Re-Regulated. Mm-hmm. And when you're walking around with a nervous system that sort of reacts to social life by panicking or getting angry or needing to pull away, it just cuts off your life at the knees. You can't pursue anything. And you might have been told, oh, you're an introvert, but actually you probably have a personality that does many things, but you've been having to control the dysregulation and stress by either avoiding people or holding them at arm's length. And when I talk about this, so many people are just like, oh, yes, that's exactly what it is. I can't take the stress. So I call it, a lot of people have what I call covert avoidance, which is where they appear to have a connected life. Maybe they have a spouse, some friends, kids, hang out with some friends sometimes, but it's that there's never really presence there. They're not really making commitments. They're not really listening. And we all do it a little bit, like looking at our phones at the dinner table when maybe we've been lonely all day and we finally get to sit down with somebody and we're just sitting there looking at what happened on X today.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of point out here too that in going through the book, one of the things that I began to realize is that there's a big difference between being actually genuinely connected and attachment. And I wanted to make sure I was kind of on the right track there with this. The idea that attaching is often, it seems to me, in the way you use it throughout the book, is a desperate attempt to kind of know that you need to be connected, but not knowing how to go about being connected. Whereas connectivity, being connected, connectability is really about figuring out ways to actually engage with the human project of being with other people in a healthy and healing sort of way. Is that kind of what you're getting at there?
That may not be what I say about attachment. Attachment is just a human thing that happens.
Okay.
And you could be, attachment, I could say this. Attachment could be why you're with a spouse, because you're attached, but you may not be present. So they can be two different things. But it's connectability is my word for this air that some people have around them where they have an easy time walking into a room with people. People are happy to see them. It's easy for them to make friends. Other people feel liked by them. And that's a quality that I could see in other people long before I had it. And I had a lot of things going for me in my life. I had been healing from my trauma for many years. A lot was going well, a lot wasn't going well. And it really came to a head for me when I had a series of hospitalizations. There was a medical accident. And I ended up needing a ton of surgery over 4 years, and I was a divorced mom. And I just really didn't have much help. And I thought I had a lot of friends, but I didn't have the kind who help you in situations like that. And that's how I found out that I had a connectability problem. I wasn't really connecting. So I set about to figure out how to have those kinds of friends who are there for you and be that kind of friend. And I found out it was a lot more than just like showing up, to run errands. I had a lot of internal obstacles, and I now know because I'm a YouTuber and I talk about it, so many people have the same thing. There's a lot of inner obstacles to feeling like you can connect with other people. And a lot of us have avoidant tendencies. We just tend to avoid people. Some of us lack boundaries. Some of us, our life is already full with people who are jerks. There's just not room for new people. Well, it's true.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about it from the relationship standpoint, I think sometimes, at least I know I did this in the past. The old me was sort of subconsciously more into quantity over quality as far as my connections. It was like if I have a lot of people around me, then I'm doing great. But I realized that was my way to avoid really one-on-one deeper connection. Now I have since wildly changed that, and I'm very aware of who I do sort of let in, but it took really consciously navigating or thinking about, intentionally thinking about who I had in my life. So, how can what is some advice you can give to people to be like, even if I have only one, I mean, no, that sounds cliche, but one or two people versus that I know I can trust, that make me feel good. Or as my friend always says, does that person make me feel light or heavy? If I walk away feeling heavy, that is not someone I need in my life. What are a couple things you can say that help us know if that person is a safe space for us or not?
Well, yeah, I call that the friendship gut check. And when I encourage people who have been isolating a long time, and for a lot of people it got worse during the pandemic. It's continued to be hard to come back. I think the division in the country, scares a lot of us to death about actually showing up and saying what we think about things, and it really has broken relationships down. So there's more anxiety, more disconnection than before. But when we do choose the good people to hang out with, there's so much you can do. And one of the things I encourage people to do is titrate, go slowly. That's a medical word for a little at a time. Go slowly and then do your gut check. How does this person make me feel? Do I feel drained and ashamed? And we feel ashamed of ourselves pretty easily. Or do I feel like that was really fun? I'm full of ideas. I have energy. I hope we get to do that again. There's your gut check. And so many of us who grew up with trauma, we do this thing. I call it crap fitting. We fit ourselves to crap. We fit ourselves to unacceptable people and situations. So you might get together for a coffee with somebody, and they're a little bit like critical. They put you down. They aren't paying attention. Don't remember that something big happened in your life. But you tell yourself, oh, well, I'm lucky to have anybody, and I should just put up with it, and it's probably my fault anyway. And that's how we end up with a life full of jerks, is we don't do that gut check and say, this didn't feel great. A good friend is somebody who has your best interest at heart. And that means it goes two ways. We do care about their best interest. We're listening. We are on their side. And it doesn't mean you can't talk to them about a conflict or anything like that. But that's a little bit stage 2 when you're just learning to reconnect. It's just trying to find people who feel good. And I don't think safety is always like the only thing. I think of safety as, a lot of people say, oh, I want a safe space. But that means other people won't do things that trigger me. I would call safety is when you are confident enough that you have tools and principles to help you so that if things get weird, you'll know what to do. That's safety. And you can take yourself out of it, or you can speak up, or you can decide not to say anything. But you're never again going to have to silence yourself and, put up with terrible treatment ever again.
Jim, it's like pre-tripping your relationships.
I mean, it really is. I mean, it's like it's right out of the truck driver's handbook. But by the way, you just kind of walked into the next question I have from the notes I was taking. I love the fact about the trigger, the idea of you can numb your sensitivity to people who trigger you, or you can calm your triggers. And I love the fact that you wrote ding, 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 ding in the parenthetical when you're kind of talking about that. And I want you to distinguish that for our listeners, please, about numbing and calming are not the same thing.
No, they're not. And then there's a third thing that a lot of people are fond of, which is you try to control the other person and say, don't ever talk like that. Don't act like that. Don't wear that shirt. That's another, that's how you can, that is like one way that you can try to deal with your triggers. And when I say trigger, I mean, it sets off dysregulation in your nervous system. Your heart pounds, you feel flustered, your emotions are a little bit elevated, and maybe not matched by your reasoning powers, which is a thing that's happening in the brain under stress when you have this kind of trauma. And so that's when lashing out and making huge pronouncements you're at risk. And you never want to be that person who is, just blowing off steam verbally at people. That's always regrettable. So it's better to sort of stay with your wits, stay with your reasoning, and pick what you want to do. So there's 3 choices when something is dysregulating you. You can avoid it, and that's a good option. I would think of somebody who's like trying to stay off drugs. It's a trigger, right? And they just prefer not to be around people using drugs. That's legitimate. That's an okay choice. You can avoid it. You can tell people, hey, don't do drugs around me. And anybody who's ever had an addict in their life knows how the results you're likely to get over time. With that approach, you probably have an argument. They can't do it. It's not really for you to decide. You might have to leave. And the third thing is to become neutral to the trigger so that you stay regulated when you're exposed to the trigger. And you have your wits about you, and you actually, all your choices are there at your disposal, and you can decide what to do. And that would be the ideal, but it's totally not realistic that any one human being can be that way about everything in their life. So, we kind of work the odds here on what's going to be the most helpful.
It's baby steps.
Anna, I got to tell you, I laughed out loud, Lindsay, when you said emergency measures to re-regulate your nervous system. Number 1 was notice when you're triggered. Number 2 was be safe. And the next line was, this is not a good time to drive your car. And I literally spit my coffee out while I was reading that, not because I thought it was ridiculous, because I'm like going, absolutely. I mean, the number of times people will storm out of a door having been triggered and put themselves in unthinking, harmful situations, right?
Do not operate heavy machinery when triggered.
I mean, that.
No. It is. You can think of it as intoxication, and you're not yourself. Your brain is not working properly. And I had to figure this out the hard way. I had a tragedy in my life. I was very triggered, and as a week afterward, I was frantic. I was in pain. I was still back in my divorced mom days. I had a lot on my plate. I went to go get gas I forgot to put gas in, and then I drove off with the thing in the car. Went back to get more gas, got the gas, drove again with the gas pump in the car. And then on the freeway, I rear-ended a truck that thankfully had a stainless steel bumper, and only my car was damaged. And they were just like, "Don't worry about it, lady." But I was like, I got to get off the road. I'm not okay. Yeah.
And you realize it. We're talking with Anna Runkle. You can head on over to her website, crappychildhoodfairy.com. A great place to remember it. She's got a quiz there you can take on the main page. It's Do You Have Childhood PTSD? You can take a quiz, and a few different ways that she can help you sort of sort through and get to the root of it. But Anna, a lot of some of these things that seem really simple are actually huge and powerful. I mean, especially when it comes to, say, a text. Why did somebody not, these small triggers, why did they not text me back?
Oh, yeah.
I do this or I used to. And then our brain starts spinning out of control, making up all these stories, projecting what's happening. And we've worked ourselves into a tizzy. And then they respond, days later, "Hi, what's up? Sorry, I was busy." And you're like, "Oh, everything's fine." But you realize you've lost all this time and put out so much energy making up the story in your brain, when really you just need to figure out, why am I worried if they respond or not? Am I reaching out because I need a response, or because I actually want to reach out? So walk us through some of these small triggers that are actually wildly profound at the end of the day.
Oh, the triggers. Well, getting ignored, overlooked, dismissed, underestimated, yelled at, treated in a disrespectful manner, which just happens so easily, doesn't it? But for some people, it's hearing a loud noise, seeing, I have one, a dirt road. My husband and I tried to drive on a dirt road to visit a hot spring last month in the Eastern Sierra, and I just started panicking, and I have almost no triggers left over from my crazy hippie upbringing with my commune parents. But this was one of them. Dirt roads, just like I was just like, "I'm sorry, we're like only a half mile away. I just can't deal with another minute of this being on the dirt road. I just can't deal with it. I'm really sorry." And I know it's not necessary. It's not happening now, but we had, we used to get we had a VW bus that would break down like every 5 minutes out in the middle of nowhere. And one time, 12 hours into a dirt road in Mexico, where no one knew we were there, and we didn't have a way to get out. And obviously I survived. Some shark fishermen came and helped us. But we were stuck there for 5 weeks. That's my parents' that's the sort of weird trauma that I had. And it came out. It's like 2 hours on a dirt road. I was like having a heart attack.
By the way, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because there are things I will tell you both right now, Lindsay. At some point, I got so sick and tired of panicking over a lack of responses on text that I literally had a breakthrough when I went, I'm going to take the attitude where that I'm going to assume that if anybody has a problem with me, they'll tell me, and if they don't, then it's up to them to tell me, and it's not my problem. And it was like, but it got simply so overwhelming when people didn't respond on text that I couldn't bear it anymore, so I didn't. But it was almost like something broke inside of me that finally stopped it, because I would work myself up into an absolute tizzy. I'm now at the point where if you actually ask me something and then 5 minutes later send me a text message with a question mark, I get infuriated. That's one of my new triggers, by the way, where it's like if I look down and see there's like 3 question marks after having not looked at my phone for a half an hour, that infuriates me.
How dare you? How dare you not be staring at your phone waiting for me to text you, Jimmy Mac?
That's exactly what it is. I mean, it's like, it's crazy, but I was as bad as all of that. I would get into terrible panic about just pain on a situation, and I'm laughing because there are the tiniest things that I can feel it rising up in my throat and my heart accelerating. How do you regulate? How do you break through other than having what I had, which was, I don't care anymore. It broke. It finally just broke on me. But what do you do, Anna?
Yeah, you got over your own reaction. But regulation, it's like a physiological thing. This was the breakthrough. For most of my life, when I used to go to therapy, they'd be like, it's psychological, it's all about your feelings. But you know what? Only a little was. It was mostly like my nervous system was sort of shutting down under stress. And it had learned to do that as a survival mechanism. I'm totally grateful that the little kid me had the infinite wisdom to just shut down huge parts of my feelings and personalities and go blank and get angry at the wrong times, because it helped me survive, and I had a full spirit intact to bring forth again later when I could. And so most of these are survival mechanisms, but in adulthood, they make us alone and volatile, and a lot of people don't understand why it's going on. So when they were saying it's psychological, in therapy also, there was a lot of focus on my mom. She was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and you could talk about that forever. But the problems that I had by the time I was 30 were entirely mine. And yeah, I was affected by that. It gave me some vulnerabilities, but the choices I was making in my life were just creating catastrophe after catastrophe, and I couldn't really get help with that. So in my method of healing, you learn to re-regulate using a technique that involves writing and meditation. It's very specific. I have a free course. Maybe you can share it with everybody if they'd like to take it. It's also in my books, but the free course is a way you can listen to it while you drive. And but you can't meditate while you drive. But I'll tell you what, you can. My writing technique, I've done it many times. There's a power to writing, a therapeutic power to writing that's different than talking about things. We all sit around ruminating about problems and emotions all day. Thinking about it has gone as far as it's going to go. Talking about it, for me, was very triggering. I would just get more and more worked up, start, feeling worse and worse. So that didn't work for me. And this girl who had lived on the streets and was sober in AA, she's like, I'm going to show you. You want me to show you how I feel better? And she showed me how to write these things. She's taught me how to do it as a prayer. And now that I've taught 1 million people how to do it, I say, if that's not your thing, you can release it intentionally. I have a hard time releasing anything. I'm very, I hold grudges, But we release it and then follow it with a restful meditation. A meditation, don't let it mislead you. It's nothing fancy. It's just resting. And so for the first few years that I had this technique, I was just making progress so fast, and my intelligence came back and my emotional balance came back. I still had a lot of life problems to solve. But to this day, if I'm driving and I'm in the middle, I'm upset about something, I've got my finger over on the upholstery of the passenger seat and I'm writing it there. I have fear that nobody likes me, and fear I really messed this thing up, and I'm getting it out. And I've been getting this stuff out in writing for so long using this specific technique that even when I write a grocery list, I start feeling better. So there's a way to get rid of the excess emotion that's so common in traumatized people. The brain is just generating more emotion and less reasoning. And it's just you can observe it on an MRI. People who are traumatized as kids, when they get stressed out, this imbalance happens that makes it very hard to interpret reality and figure out what to do. So we pause, we use the tools, and then there's some emergency measures, and those are things like you said, you say, I'm getting dysregulated. You can take a cold shower, a hot shower, and if you can't do that, how about wash your hands in cold water or hot water? Anything to tell your nervous system, here's a sensation for you. Your nervous system is this beautiful part of your body and being that is governing your hormones, your immune system, your movements, your awareness of what's going on around you. And you want that to be tip-top. This is like, I saw a picture of what the nervous system looks like physically, and they have to animate it with pretend light. It doesn't give off light, but it looks like an angel. It looks like an angel, that's inside your body, and it's just helping you with everything. So you want to take care of that and learn, it's going off. And some signs that it's getting dysregulated are you're feeling clumsy, discombobulated, overreactive, can't focus, your thoughts are going in circles, or desperate, or can't sleep, you're eating at the wrong time, sleeping at the wrong time. This is also, the nervous system governs your daily rhythms, it governs your life rhythms. It governs just about everything except maybe your spiritual life. So it's something to pay attention to and feel. So movement, if you have to do one emergency measure, it's move your body. Get out of the vehicle, move around a little bit, feel the gravity of your body on your feet. When you sit back down, feel the gravity of your butt in the seat. Start waking up to just some of the senses going on. But your brain and your body need to know, what time of day is it? What day is it anyway? What is the season? Where am I? And every time you go outside, you allow your brain to recalibrate those things that it needs to know.
Anna, by the way, I can't tell you how much you've actually walked into the company of two great friends, because both of us believe in the absolute healing power of writing. My colleague over there has a podcast she does once a week, and all she does is talk to creatives, not about how to make cool things, but how to literally write yourself to some level of freedom. Could not have stepped into a better group of people. I'm bragging on us, by the way, but I want to do that because I love my co-host.
Oh, that's lovely.
Go ahead, Lindsay. I know you got one more thing before we get
well,
out of here.
on that tip, first of all, I want to say I love that you say that thank you, Jim. I love that you say the nervous system looks like an angel, because then it really, you can visualize what's happening inside of you, and if that angel's there to take care of you, you need to take care of it as much as possible as well, and realize it's sort of a relationship with your nervous system. So I love that visual you just gave. And really quickly, we just have a couple minutes left, but We Should Write, we talk about the healing power of writing, and I always feel like if I share something vulnerable, we cue others that it's safe for them to do the same. But you mentioned with your mom, you said because of how you grew up with the trauma from your mother, that she gave you a lot of vulnerabilities. And I just was interested to hear the word vulnerability is used there versus, like, I was saying it more of as a positive thing, but not that you said it as a negative thing, but I'm interested in that take on it of a dance between the two, if that makes sense.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm aware of that too, because when you're a kid who isn't fed food and stuff, the concept of vulnerable is not something you want.
yeah, it's interesting though. Yeah.
But and so toughness was usually my thing. I was a heavy smoker. I would say tough things. I would, if I was flirting with a guy, I'd put him down. I had some weird ideas about what vulnerable is or why that's a good thing. And but I've learned, and so being vulnerable with people means not being tough. And but I'll be honest with you, I still don't really think of that as the highest virtue. I think I would call it presence, actually listening, and listening without having to jump in and go, oh yeah, the same thing happened to me, or well, you shouldn't feel that because science says the blah blah blah. There's just so many ways that we cut off people when they're trying to reveal themselves to us. And so, as like many traumatized people, I'm a little bit of an oversharer, and that's probably why I have a different relationship to the concept of vulnerability. You might, but oversharing, I get anxious, I'll tell you anything, which has been great for my career as a YouTuber. You can't blackmail me. I've already said everything shameful in my life. But vulnerable. I know what you're talking about, the being able to trust and open up and say what's really going on and be honest and not reactive. And I think that's a gift. It's one of several good things that come as a result of being regulated. When you're regulated, you have less fear and resentment. When you have less fear and resentment, you can be open. You naturally have gratitude. You naturally feel more accepting of other people and their limitations.
Anna, wonderful. Thank you for all this information. Everyone can head over to crappychildhoodfairy.com. The link is also on our website under our guests. Anna, we really appreciate you making the time and connecting. Your connectability is beautiful. So everybody check out the book. You can also go to our website, take a quiz, and just start from one. Start at the very beginning. The first step is admitting there's a problem, and Anna is here to help you through it. Thank you for making the time.